Hi, folks. As you can see by the title, that I want to focus on something that is a little bit more closer to my heart now than it was before. Now, some of you may know me from the Ford Focus 1998 to 2005 Facebook group. I have been on that group probably since within 6 months of it being made. I think when the admin set it up in 2014. I became a member, I think, early 2015, when Mk1 Focus was literally the club was basically to help owners maintain their cars and to meet up occasionally. But it was really about you used to get a lot of members who were basically, not really interested in cars. They just were on there because it was a nice forum for people to give advice on repairing. What I've noticed in the last couple of years is that has changed a lot now. You very rarely get people who are not interested in the cars, and we are getting way more enthusiasts, which is fantastic for the car. Because at the end of the day, enthusiasts are more likely to spend money on these cars and to actually repair them instead of scrapping them. I see too many of these going to the scrapyard really willy-nilly. And I mean, there was an example a couple of weeks ago now when I went to a scrapyard just for a couple of little clips because I knew they had some Focuses in. There's a scrapyard near me. There's always a couple of them lurking around, which is always a good thing. And while I was there, a third one came in, but it wasn't towed there. It was driven there. It was a 1.6 manual, and it was driven there. And I asked the bloke who bought it in, why are you scrapping it? It runs. He said, well, there's rot underneath, and I've been told the garage said the rear brake pipes needed doing. Now they do rot. They rot where they go just above the tank. It's such a common fault. It is something to be very aware of if your brake pipes haven't been changed to copper nickel. So like I said, that's fair enough because they are expensive jobs, and obviously those jobs have never been done, and they're obviously the car was soldiered on and it's still running. And I just think that if you had £500, that car would be absolutely fine. I looked at it and it was quite dry under the engine bay. There was a lot of nice parts, and I am going to go back. They've still got it there, and I told the owner just to hold it because he knows that I come back for a few parts, so I'm going to take a few bits off it. It looks like it's got a brand new alternator. That's could be handy, so I might need to get some pennies together for that. There are a few bits off it. It wasn't a 3-door, it was a 5-door, so there's less bits I can take in terms of the trim. But there's so many examples like that, and all it would need is £500 if you're not doing it yourself. Welding wise, you're looking at about 150 quid for each corner if it's the rear arches. If it's the sills, it'd be a bit more for patches to be put on just for now, just to get it through an MOT. Worry about long term, in the long term. And the rear brake pipes I could do myself, but most people would pay like 200, probably about 200, 150 quid to have them done, just so they'll basically cut them at the back where the pipes go straight towards the back where the fuel filter is, and then they'll literally drop the tank possibly a little bit. They will have to drop it and then put new lines over to the wheels. It's a shame that so many cars are going that way, but it's because of the values. They are way too low, and people are selling them way too low. They are worth more than that now. Most people outside of the group will not consider them a modern classic, but people in the group do. And these are the people that should be championing these cars and pushing prices up, not down. And I've seen quite a few members being a little bit cheeky with their offers. I know, like when someone's selling a car, we would like to buy it at as cheapest rate as possible, but this is where the sellers need to be asking more and saying, no, I'm putting my foot down here. This car's worth that. What I'm asking for is exactly what it's worth. If you don't want to pay and recognise the car for what it is, okay, fine, somebody else will. The issue will be is that you're going to have a car for a bit longer. And obviously when people decide to sell a car, they just want to get shot. They don't want to be keeping it around too often. That is a main issue. In the UK, I'm some of you may be aware, if you are part of those groups, I am the same person who has started a little bit of a database on the Focus Mk1, and it's basically a database full of statistics about how many are left. Now, I am aware there is a website called How Many Left, and I think it's an amazing website. I think it's given the enthusiasts of any modern or classic car, any car of interest, or any car at all, information about how many have left of their type there are. But the thing is with Mk1s, and this is where I got increasingly frustrated with that website, the figures are not accurate at all, because they don't consider, for instance, Ford Focus Zetec. Now that was a model that, sorry about that, my camera actually got cut off there. I lost memory on my phone. Unfortunately, I didn't delete things out the recycling box. Anyway, Ford Focus Zetec. Basically, on that website, you've got a crossover where it doesn't identify Mk1s and Mk2s. It's just all the same car. So basically, in the numbers for Ford Focus Zetec are both Mk1s and Mk2 numbers. I don't want to know about Mk2 numbers. I want to know about how many Mk1s left on the road. And that's why I started that little database in my spare time. When I could, and I started getting the figures straight from the Department for Transport Statistics. They hold everything online, and it's a place where anybody can go and look at the figures, but it's about interpreting them. And what I've done is I've created my own little table, which I will be sharing on the group page very soon. I think it may be next May, actually, saying that, because they only release the full engine statistics and bodywork statistics in May. So I can basically give people a breakdown, and I will basically put a post up saying, you know, these are the current totals. This is how much it's gone down by. And I have asked people, you know, if you want to know how rare your car is, please let me know. Obviously, I can't do colours because there's no information kept on colours, which is a pity. But I'm afraid it's something I can't provide. Bodywork is something I can't provide at the moment, but they're looking at doing that in the future. But what I can say is, if you've got, let's say, a 2002 Focus Zetec automatic 1.6, I can tell you exactly how many of that model and year are left. It's as simple as that. I can break it down very simply. And I've given a lot of members some really useful information, and I had a lot of good feedback from that. That'll be something that I'll look to do in the future on this channel as an update, as opposed to alongside the Facebook groups. I haven't actually advertised this channel on those Facebook groups yet. I may do so. I just want to grow the channel a little bit before I do that. But, you know, I think most of you may be on the Facebook groups beforehand, so that's not really an issue. And I'm aware that this video is getting a bit long now. So I will be going through that with you in more detail, and I will actually show you my database in the future so that we can see where the numbers are going. Quite frankly, the total UK numbers of Focuses are around 780,000 were first registered in this country in total. That is approximate, but it's very accurate. Now there's about 84,000 left on the roads. That is 10% of what was originally on the roads. So it kind of gives you a perspective of how rare they actually are now. Now, in terms of prices, people need to ask more for them, because there's an awful lot of really good examples that people are selling right now. Low mileage, good examples. I only want 900 for it. And I think you are selling a really good car. You're selling it down the pan, because I'm not being funny to anybody who buys a car under £1,000, right? But if you sell the more cheaper you sell a car, the more likely the person who buys the car from you is just going to run it as a banger. And they're not going to repair stuff. They're not going to want to improve it. They're not going to want to keep it long term. They're just there to literally run it into the ground. And they could be running a really good example into the ground, and then it gets driven to the scrapyard like the one I saw the other day. And that's where low prices have such a bad effect on basically the whole scene as a whole. You're going to get to a stage where, like many Escorts and Fiestas of a much older age in the 80s and 90s, there aren't many examples of them left because of exactly this reason. I don't like banger racing. I haven't got anything particularly against it. I just don't like it when it comes to actually breaking perfectly reasonable cars. And I've seen some really reasonable Focuses being banger raced. Banger racing, principally from people who are in the banger racing scene, they take cars that are at the end of their life. That's not what I've seen. Yes, some are, but a lot of these Focuses, I've seen them and they've been broken way prematurely and banger raced when they shouldn't be. And they know, and these people know what they're doing as well. But the thing is, I wouldn't really want to call these people enthusiasts. They're just people that look for any old banger to banger race, and I think that's got to stop. People have got to stop doing that. And that the way of doing that is basically asking more money for them. And it's easy, because if people collectively ask for more money, then and start putting their foot down and saying, no, that I'm not open to offers. That's the price. That's what it's worth. If people started putting their foot down, maybe it'd make a difference on the scene as a whole. I hope that this video does get seen by a wider group of people. But basically, Mark 1 values, they're kind of seen in two categories. Well, firstly, there's a couple of red flags. The first red flag is when somebody sells a car and is saying, oh, well, and this is for the buyer's side of things, I will tell you this. From a buyer's perspective, if you see an advert that says rust free, no rust, when referring to a Mark 1 Focus, there's no such thing. There's absolutely no such thing. Every Mark 1 Focus rusts. They all rust in the same places, the rear sills or along the front sill or the rear arches. They can go in some weird places. They can rot at the bottom of the doors, at the bottom of the front wings. There's no such thing as rust free. So ignore that. That's someone who's trying to con you. Second one is low mileage. Just consider that if you buy a low mileage one, they will need work because rubber perishes, and it's usually the rubber items that suffer in low mileage situations, and exhausts as well. The third one is if it's one lady owner from new, you can guarantee there'll be a curb scuffs on every single corner from parking and a knackered clutch. Anyway, that's from the buyer's perspective. From a seller's perspective, if you've got a Focus with a very short MOT, then I'm afraid that will put it at a disadvantage. But that depends on the condition. So we'll ignore that bit about the MOTs. In terms of condition, anything from 600, which is the floor, shouldn't be worth anything less than that. That is a car that basically has no MOT and is basically could be considered scrap or very near to going to the scrapyard, and most end up doing that journey anyway. But that's what the bottom price is. Anything from 600 to 900, you're looking at a car with, you know, I'd say a decent amount of issues that need to be looked at. Maybe a few issues in terms of mainly bodywork, expensive stuff that have been left by previous owners or bodged, as I've seen. And then anything over between 900 and 1,300 pounds, you're looking for a half decent example, a few niggly bits, obviously paintwork, but relatively solid, no rot. No rot meaning not no rust, just no rot, no holes at the moment. It doesn't need welding at that present time, but there is rust, and there will be some that will need to be treated very carefully. Some may be terminal, it may be too late, but it will probably pass an MOT because it's kind of in that bracket of a working car with rough edges. That's what I would say. Anything above 1,300, 1,400, and you're looking at the best examples that are on the road today. You're talking about examples that, like mine's a good example of, I never put a value on my car, but it's always good to think. But you've seen my car inside, outside, underneath, and paintwork now. I'd definitely be asking about 1,800. strong money. It's, you know, it's not the mintest one in the world, but I'd say it's in the top bracket of decent. And you're talking about 1800, a car that would pass an MOT quite easily, minimal issues, very few issues, just running maintenance and paintwork. Or you could just drive it as it is, which many people do. So that's what you're looking at for that sort of bracket, and mine's towards the upper side. ST170s, they can go for anything from 1,000 to 2.5 grand, you know, in terms of condition, again on the same sliding scale. If it's an ST170 estate, now this coincides with my little work with the DVI statistics. Now there are no statistics on body styles at the moment, but I do know for a fact they have this information. They are sitting on it, because a lot of people were asking me when I did the first posting, and people were saying, oh, do you know how many ST170 estates there are? I had so many people asking me that question, and I looked on the forums, and that question has been asked so many times down the years, and I thought this is worth finding out. So I sent an email to the right person, it turns out, who basically gave me an email very, very quickly. I did a freedom of information, but they said, do you want me to treat it as such? We can give that information out anyway. I said, okay, don't treat it as such. And they literally gave me an email with the numbers. And basically, there are 95 ST170 estates on the road today. They didn't give SORM data. I wanted that as well, but they didn't give that. But they gave me the on-road total. So that information is as accurate as of December last year. So it may have gone down, may have gone up. I don't know. But 95. And the ST170 Owners Club on Facebook were very good. They're very happy to know that, particularly the people that own one. I think the price just shot up. I think a good one of them would be a good 2.5 to 3 grand. I really do think that, because of how rare they are. And you can't really tell them apart from the normal estates, apart from the colour. There's nothing really different about them on the outside. I don't know as much about ST170 estates, but they are very disguised. So that's really in terms of where values stand. I'm not going to talk about RSs, because RSs have always been worthwhile. They're a collector's car from the first time they came out the showroom, and they're still collector's cars today. And I believe 1,600 of them are still on the road. So that's from 2000 first made for homologation purposes. So yeah, there are collector's cars, but I'm not interested in them because I will not own one. I don't want to own one. I think they're very overrated, but I might get some stick for saying that. Yeah, I deal with normal Focuses, everyday Focuses, and these are the ones that are going to die out unless people start asking more money for them. If you're selling a Focus right now, I mean, there is a good example. I've got one here. A Focus 1.8 53 plate Moondust Silver, 3-door, 87,500 miles. It's pretty clean from the pictures. I can't see any rust. And the owner's asking £900 for it. And I just messaged saying that's worth a few hundred more at least if there's no obvious rot on the sills and the arches. Definitely. Could be 1,100, 1,200. And this is the thing, people are undervaluing them by at least a few £100. Don't do that. Value it as what it is. I think some people need a bit of help to know what it's worth. Some people don't know. I mean, a lot of these cars are still in the hands of the general public who have no interest in these cars whatsoever. It's just an old banger. And that's where people are getting the bargains. But for all the people that do know these cars better, I think asking more will, one, start getting people investing in these cars and repairing these cars instead of scrapping them, like that poor one that was driven to the scrapyard by me. And overall, there'll be higher numbers that survive. I get the impression that. I mean, not in the same respect. It's nice in a way because if there's more scrapped, mine becomes rarer. But that's not how I want things to work. So I thought that this might be. I hope this reaches a wider audience. I will be doing more videos based on how many are left. I will probably do one maybe very soon, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, I am known as I am known on the Facebook groups. I don't want to completely identify myself, but if people know me, then please shout out in the comments, give me a comment, or give me a Facebook message or whatever. If you don't know me, I'm not going to reveal my complete identity yet. I think that's probably quite wise in this world. I'm not somebody who wants people turning up on my doorstep, asking for a cup of tea and chat. I'm a very nice person, but hey, you know, private space and all that. You know, my YouTube life is my YouTube life, not my real. Well, it is my real life because it's what I do in real life. But you know, anyway, I will leave it there and put this up on YouTube. So if you've got any comments, please put them down below. I have 27 subscribers now. Went up one from yesterday, unbelievably so. It's going up 1 subscriber per 2 videos, so that's pretty awful. So I must be reaching some level of audience, but not quite. But it's a 1-car channel at the moment, and people like multiple car channels, so we might see about that. Anyway, take care guys, see you very soon.